Coming up on show 924, the Audi RS e-tron GT prototype impresses. Also on the podcast today, Ferrari remain pretty shy on EVs. Bentley is going to go EV only as a brand, but by when? Well, keep listening and I'll tell you. And we got the sales figures for last month coming out of Germany and the UK. Some breaking news today, and I think you'll be interested. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening around the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. It's Martin Lee here, and I go through every EV story so you haven't got to. So the big story today is all about the Audi RS e-tron GT. This is Audi's RS division being given free rein to take what is already a great EV, the e-tron GT, and put it on steroids, as it were. This is the division of Audi Sport, responsible for their RS badged models, and so far not done an EV, but they're currently putting the finishing touches on their first ever, an RS version of the upcoming Audi e-tron GT. It's available now to journalists and influencers to have a go in it, says Inside EVs, and those who have had a chance include the likes of CarWow's Matt Watson and Misha on his YouTube channel, and they were really impressed by the performance, by the looks of the vehicle as well, and they not only got to drive the vehicle in a traffic-free environment, but they were allowed to take the prototypes out on the road. This wasn't a tightly controlled press shoot, as far as I can tell. You do get those sometimes. They get access to the cars, but they're not the ones driving, or they're in the back seat or whatever. I've watched the video reviews today of the RS e-tron GT, and they're out having a play. In fact, the team at CarWow measured the performance of it with their timing gear, and it did 0 to 60 in 2.88 seconds. The quarter mile, 10.94. At 130 miles an hour, that's 210 kilometers an hour. Well, the always excellent Evo magazine says that Audi's take on the Taycan is more relaxed than its Porsche counterpart, but will still make you second guess the RS7 order that you may put in. Does that imply to you like this is simply an Audi badged Taycan? I'm not sure that's what they were trying to get at. I think that sentence does sound like, Audi's take on the Taycan, like the Porsche Taycan is out there and now Audi have done their own version of it. I think that's what it sounds like, but it's not what they mean. Now look, these cars may share the same platform, the J1 performance platform. This is not a rebadged Porsche Taycan. Everything you see, and everything, a lot that you can't see, is designed by the Audi engineers. So you'll see some similarities in the specs, but correlation does not imply causation. Well, Evo writes the RS e-tron GT sits roughly on par with the Taycan Turbo, the non-S version, in terms of the performance that you'll get out of the car. Front axle motor developing 235 brake horsepower, that's 175 kilowatts. Single-speed gearbox up front, and on the rear, there's the two-speed unit, there's the locking diff, 684 brake horsepower in total, and that is about 13 horsepower more than the Taycan Turbo. Like other recent Audi Sport models, the RS e-tron GT has a suite of features to help keep 2.4 tons under control. Four-wheel steering, three-chamber adaptive air suspension. It can drop the car 22 millimeters for aero reasons at high speed, and it can raise it 20 millimeters for extra ground clearance. Nothing worse than some speed humps or traffic control measures and hearing your car scrape against the road. Well, Car Magazine also got access to this as well, and they say that whilst pricing is TBC, expected to be around £120,000, that's a £20,000 premium over the non-RS e-tron GT. And like the Taycan, they say there's a two-speed transmission on the rear axle, and they focus on coasting rather than hardcore regen, which would extend the battery range, of course. However, the Audi uses its front e-motor a little more for reasons of efficiency, but it can switch so rapidly to the rear, 5 times faster than Audi's mechanical all-wheel drive system, their Quattro system. It's basically instant, isn't it? And the effect on dynamic driving should be minimal. So it'll use the front motor for efficiency, That's been done in EVs before. Very sensible move. More than 248 miles on the European test cycle. Charge times, well, the same as the Taycan, really, because it's using the same 800 volts architecture. So charging up to 270 kilowatts at the moment, 62 miles of range in the first 5 minutes at peak charge rate. One of the engineers actually told Car Magazine that the Porsche was about extracting every drop of lap time, but dynamic mode in the Audi is softer than the Taycans, and there's no Sport Plus equivalent. It's a GT. It's a Grand Tourer. This is not meant to do the same job as the Porsche Taycan. Yes, it sits on the same platform. Yes, it has the same voltage, but it's a different car, and it's different styling, Audi styling. You know, this is all subjective, but personally, I'm really on board with this, and even with the little bit of camouflage left. I've never been, this is funny, I've never been the world's greatest fan of the Taycan looks. Yeah, like I'm in the market to spend 150 grand anyway, so not the Porsche care what I think, but there's something about the front end that I've appreciated it, but never fully on, you know, if I've always thought, well, if it did have the money, wave a magic wand, win the lottery, it wouldn't be my first choice. This absolutely would be. Audi RS e-tron GT is beautiful. This is just Audi styling at its sharp best. But subjective. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. That's the point of having both of these cars on the market. The battery packs are different, for instance. This is not just a rebadging. It's one spec that is totally different to the Taycan. The Porsche has two batteries. There's the 79.2 kilowatt hour and the 93.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. The e-tron has one. It's 83.7, meet you in the middle. And it has 396 pouch cells in 33 modules, according to Green Car Reports. The GT has two coolant circuits running at different temperature levels. A cool one for the battery pack and a warm one for the motors and the power electronics. There's also cooling and heating circuits for the interior, and between the four of those circuits, it has its own version of Tesla's octo valve. In other words, a series of valves that will allow the systems to move temperature around the car, the cabin, the battery, the heat pump, for the interior, for what it needs to do. The potential of the cooling system is most used during high-performance driving or during the high-power DC fast charging when you want to keep the battery cool. This will do preheating of the battery, so if you put where you are heading to the charger, just like Tesla, into the sat-nav, it will start to preheat the battery so that when you pull up to that high-powered charger and go for that 270 kilowatt charge rate, the battery is in absolute tip-top condition temperature-wise to take that total, the current really is what I'm trying to say, because if you didn't know, when battery packs are very cold, the internal resistance of the battery, I think that's what it is, the exact definition of it. It just takes a little while to warm up. And anyway, batteries, lithium-ion batteries, are much like humans. They like to be about 20 degrees, 21 degrees. If you're comfortable, your battery's comfortable. So those are the reviews coming in today on the RS e-tron GT. What do you think? You check out the pictures. I put a ton of links. I'll pop the link to Audi's press centre, the media centre, in the show notes. And there's a ton of pictures on there. You can have a look and see what you think. So let's move on. According to the CEO of Ferrari, Louis Camilleri, he doesn't believe that Ferrari will ever transition to an EV lineup fully. In fact, he doesn't even think they will reach 50% in his lifetime, according to remarks made on the investor call today. Ferrari declined to make further comment. Says CNET.com, Ferrari rolled out its first ever plug-in hybrid last year, the SF90 Stradale, and they think that it will have an electric car ready around 2025, but it's in a no rush to go totally electric, and in fact they say the brand will never be totally electric. Well, look, Ferrari is, along with all the passion of the brand and putting the logo on key rings and lunchboxes, it's also a very commercial brand. Ferrari is very, very good at selling cars. And if people want to buy EVs, they're going to have to make EVs. I know they make a noise. I know that is, if you're an Italian running Ferrari and you've got one as a company car, there is no doubt that the noise from that exhaust probably stirs something within you. And I totally understand why the head of Ferrari would say, I don't think we'll ever get to 50%, let alone 100%. But he also knows, smart guy. You don't get to be the boss of Ferrari without being he's a smart guy. He knows all transport is going to zero emissions, whatever that is, electric, fuel cell, combination of both. All transport will go zero emissions. You and I are talking about it now because we know what's coming. We can see over the horizon. We will not be burning stuff in, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. There will be a time when, if there's still a Ferrari, it'll be an all-electric brand. Not the right thing to say now on an investor call. You always wonder about things that, quotes taken from investor calls, bearing in mind. Not a public event, said to a bunch of investors. I'll let you make your own mind up about that. Right, let's talk about the opposite, actually. Bentley. There's another brand known for big lumps in the front of the car, like a big Bentley V10, or, a 12-cylinder, right? Bentley has used their recent event called Beyond 100 to reveal a bold ambition to move to luxury electric mobility. Under the plan, Bentley just said, and of course part of VW, Bentley just said that they will exclusively offer EVs, including plug-ins, so plug-ins and full electrics, in the next 5 years, by 2026. The plug-in models will be dropped eventually, and then, by the end of the decade, Bentley can see the writing on the wall. They're not that important to VW. If they want to continue making Bentleys, don't get me wrong, clearly important, but not bet the house important. If they're not making money, I can see them being offloaded, sold off, etc., etc. So they have said, we're going all electric, and that is amazing news. According to Car Scoops, a huge change, as Bentley is the world's largest maker of 12-cylinder petrol engines, and they will all be gone by the end of the decade. Okay, a couple of sales figures just coming in as I'm writing the show today. Battery, electric and plug-in hybrid cars grew in the UK up huge amounts, growing substantially. More than 1 in 10 registrations last month in October were these cars. According to the latest registration figures, demand for pure battery electric cars was up 195%, plug-ins up 150%, a total of 9,335 pure electric cars sold last month in October in the UK. Year to date, 76,000. And the figures are even bigger if you go to Germany. According to Germany's Transport Authority, 23,158 EVs were registered in Germany in October. That's a new record. Compared with the same month last year, it's a 365% increase, says Electrive. In terms of the market share, all electric, so pure BEV, passenger cars in Germany, 8.4% of the market last month, and in September it was 8, I think. Right. I'll pop links to those figures and stats if you want to just delve deep and get into the weeds on those. You're more than welcome to. I'll pop links to both of those in the show notes. Moving on, Northvolt has commissioned its first energy storage system connected to an EV charging station. It's happening in Sweden, and the battery system is the first that the local energy provider in Sweden is deploying alongside EV chargers. The system serves to reduce peaks in electricity demand of the charging station by over 80% and lessens the demands of the electric vehicle charging on the grid. Well, Northvolt has delivered a lithium-ion battery pack based around its own modular battery system, output of 220 kilowatts to 320 kilowatt hours. So big, but not megawatt hours. The battery system functions as a buffer between the electricity grid and EV charging stations to enable peak shaving and load leveling. Peak shaving in this way helps utilities to meet the demand at peak times without relying on turning on often more expensive and more dirty part-time generators to meet the peak supply, which are increasingly recognised as an inefficient way to compensate for what is needed on the grid, and also for when you want to charge your car. We're going to see more and more battery storage and EV charging stations rolled out around the world, and that's a great thing because it integrates how we move around. Okay, call it mobility, ding ding, buzzword, but our own personal mobility and how it affects the planet's energy use. And before, we would have never drawn a line between the grid and our cars, but of course, with EVs, we think about, well, how are we making electricity? How many renewables are on the grid? And actually, between maybe 4 and 7 is typical here in the afternoon. Peak times, people get home, they turn on their oven. This time of year, they're lighting because it's dark at 5:30 in the afternoon at the moment, heading towards the shortest day of the year, certainly. So a lot of electricity being used, and actually when you need that peak power to avoid blackouts and brownouts, those peaker plants are often the worst things to turn on. They often live on standby. Well, they have to be on standby to supply power to the grid. Okay, let's talk Tesla. Launching new winter tyres and wheels for the Model Y. A new package has just been revealed online for their first snow regulations in the north. In the northeast, many jurisdictions apparently require winter tyres before a certain date, according to Fredda Electric. And with the Model Y facing its first winter, of course, went on sale earlier this year, Tesla has released the Model Y 19-inch Gemini wheels and winter tyres with the Pirelli Winter Soto Zero tyres. Whole package costs $3,500, 4,700 Canadian. And if your Model Y has bigger wheels than 19 inches, then maybe you want to get the wheel and tyre package and just for winter downgrade and be safe. But, if you already do have those Gemini wheels or 19 inches on your Model Y, maybe just go to a third party, get these exact same specs as many Tesla buyers already do, and save yourself a load of money. You've got the wheels already, haven't got to buy the whole package from Tesla. Right, final story today is a bit of washing up, actually, from yesterday when we were talking about BMW's change of philosophy, because they've been saying for a long time that their catchphrase is the power of choice. So all of their cars will be available in petrol, diesel, plug-in, and pure electric. They're going to make the car, and they will put in the powertrain that is making the most sense, all made in the same factories. And yesterday, I called it a U-turn. I stick by that because they said, well, actually, by 2025, we won't do that. We'll do pure electric platforms, which is a new thing. Now, I'm sure that BMW don't like me pitching it as a complete U-turn in philosophy, but it genuinely is. They've been saying for so long, hey, look, we don't think we need a dedicated platform like VW. Hey, we're not doing it like Tesla with a skateboard design. Hey, the way that BMW's come up is the best way. Now, I think they've gone back to the drawing board and gone, too many compromises. We need to make pure EVs from a blank sheet of paper. So, I'm going to read you the statement that their chairman of the board of management, Oliver Zipser, told investors. This was the investor call. I gave you a clip of it yesterday, but this is what he said. It's quite a long quote, but it's, if you're a fan of the BMW brand, it will give you an insight into where they are. He said, and I quote, "We delivered more than 116,000 EVs and plug-in hybrids in the first 9 months of the year, a new all-time high and a significant year-on-year increase of 20%. This trend becomes even clearer in October. The Mini Cooper SE, 13,000 of those since March, and our order book is full. The BMW iX3 arrives in showrooms in the next few days. And in 2021, the BMW i4 will come out of plant Munich with 600 kilometres of range. In 2021, the iNext will follow. The board of management took the series version for a test drive, and I'm sure this car will surprise and delight a lot of people. We expect demand for fully electric vehicles to continue, increasingly significant from 2025 on. Exactly then, just at the right time, we will launch Phase 3 of our transformation. Our new cluster architecture is geared towards electric drivetrains. This area reports directly to me. It's organisationally connected to all divisions, markets, finance, procurement, development and production, all the way to sales and marketing. This gives us greater leverage and makes us faster. Also, in our cooperation with partners, the objective is for the new architecture to create an overall optimum. Our new plant in Hungary will play a key role in this, ramping up the new BEV-centric architecture from the middle of the decade, end quote. So a couple of things here. BMW had an investor deck presentation a couple of weeks ago, maybe it's a month ago, time flies, and there was no mention of, hey, we think we got it wrong. So even up to that point, they were talking about the power of choice and we're going to make cars and shove an engine in one and a battery in the next one, but it's all going to be the same car. They will still do that. during the time it's going to take them to invent their all-electric platform. So it's going to take them 4 years, and from 2025 we'll start to get these cars on the road. And, you know, like the giveaway is when he said that phrase, the new architecture will create an overall optimum. That was the phrase. And, you know it and I know it, that if you don't want compromises, you got to make EVs from the ground up and design them from the ground up and not take a petrol car or a diesel car and go, well, we can squeeze it where the fuel tank was, a couple of batteries in there, and, you know, it's just not designed that way. So, you know, there's great news. I think the long term of BMW, they're claiming that this is phase 3. And, you know, I don't know if they're going to try and tell people they always plan to do 3 phases. But their current phase that they're in is phase 2. But that will end in the middle of the decade when phase 3 uses an EV platform. Good news for fans of the brand. Long term, I think they've got some short term pain coming their way, though. New reviews are out of the iX3, generally very good. We'll address those tomorrow, and we'll have a look at some of the YouTube videos that have hit the intranet. Hey, that's your show for today. There are 923 shows in the archive. If you use iTunes or Apple or iPhone, whatever, you can write a review on the iTunes app. Not if you use a third-party podcast app, if you use the iTunes app on your MacBook or your phone, your iPad, you can leave a review, like a rating and review. If you can ever do that for this show, it does help spread the word. So that'd be great. Premium partners on Patreon, thank you very much. Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Porsche of the Village in Cincinnati, Audi of Cincinnati East, Volvo Cars of Cincinnati East, NationalCarCharging.com and AlohaCharge.com, Derek Riley at the EV Review Ireland YouTube channel, and Richard at rsimons.co.uk. That is the electric vehicle specialist at rsimons.co.uk. Have a wonderful day. I will catch you tomorrow. And do remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.